Right, so now that we have our pictures downloaded, if you haven't already, be sure you download your Photoshop document by clicking here in step 1. Once you have that file downloaded and on your desktop, let's just go ahead and double click that file to open it up in Photoshop. Now, you'll notice that this is just a blank document. What we're going to be doing is adding our different images on here of our different people. And then we're going to be cutting different parts of their faces out, and we're just going to kind of piece them together. So once we have this open, let's go ahead and open up our folder of portraits, and let's take a look at what we have to work with. Now, if you have collected some of your own images from burst.shopify, that's okay too. You want to be sure you're using at least 11 different portraits for your final image. Now, when you're looking for an image to start with, you want to try and think about kind of what your base is going to be. Now, it could be any of these different images. Depending on which image you start with, it could end up dictating kind of what some of your other images or what your final is going to look like. So you just want to be sure that when you start, you're just kind of thinking about what you like. I'm looking at this person here. I think I can do a lot. It's just a nice frontal image. So what I can do is kind of really start building off from it. Again, it doesn't really matter which one you start with. I'm just going to choose this one. So to start, we'll just click, hold, and drag that first layer right into our desktop. And what I'm going to do is just blow this up. So for the most part, his face takes up the entire image. Now, you want to be sure that your image isn't super small and kind of floating, because then you're going to end up having just not a lot of space to work with, and things can become misproportional. So you want to be sure that your image is taking up the entire screen, or the entire page, I'm sorry. So then that way you have more to kind of build from. Once you've added your image, go ahead and hit return on your keyboard to then place it. Now, again, you want to be sure that you have your show transform control selected on your move tool. If you don't, then you're not going to have your bounding box, and you won't be able to make your image bigger or smaller. Once we have our first image down, what I'm going to do is go ahead and lock that layer down. So then that way I don't have to worry about it moving. Now, if you don't see your layers over here, all you need to do is go to this little tab here and go down to where it says Reset Essentials, and that will reset that for you. So once I have my main image here, I'm going to go ahead and lock that, and now I'm ready to move on to the next one. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select, well, we'll start with her randomly, and we'll drag her right on here. Now I'm working with the black and white image on the bottom. So whatever I start choosing, it's going to start going on color on top. That's okay. And so I'm going to go ahead and to start, maybe I'll grab her lips. Maybe we'll add her lips to maybe his face here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab my magic lasso. So I'm going to grab my lasso tool. And with the lasso tool, unlike the quick selection tool, I can kind of go around and I can be a little freer with it, which is nice because it'll look like I kind of cut it out of paper versus it being totally super selected and looking super real. If you want to play around with your selection tools, you can. However, I think the magic lasso tool is going to be preferred throughout the course of this assignment. Once you have your selection made, all you're going to do is click your mask button, and notice how we've now selected their mask. Now what I'm going to do is just kind of resize this image here. So then that way it's going to start getting pieced together. I might have to rotate the image a little bit and see what that looks like. Now you can play around with proportions, what happens when you make these lips really, really big. And then we can start to see how these things start to get pieced together. Now, if you want to get crazy with it, you can also use your brush tools to then paint or add in parts of your layer mask, so then you can have a little more control over how your selection looks. Now, when we were using our combination landscapes, we were using a really fine brush, a soft brush. So our hardness was turned all the way down. For this, you want to be sure you have your hardness turned all the way up. So then that way it's going to be still a nice sharp line. And that way it'll start to look still kind of like that collage kind of vibe that we're into. Be sure you have your flow set all the way to 100. So then that way you have total control over how this looks. If you don't have your flow all the way up, notice how it leaves these different sort of circular marks in your brush. You want to be sure that you have your flow and your opacity all the way up to 100. With this assignment, we're not really blending them together. We're trying to fit into the sort of the style of the collage, which is a little more cut and paste. So play around with this. Again, using black will eliminate parts of your image, and the white will paint it back on. So you have so much more control over how these images can look depending on how you use your masks. I hope you have fun with this assignment. You need to use all 11. The challenge is going to be seeing where you can put these different images once you have the basic eyes, lips, nose, mouth, and ears done, which is going to be the real challenge for you when you get there. I can't wait to see what you all make. I want you to have fun. If you need help, please raise your hand and be patient while I get around to everybody.